Session 4 of Resting in Winter is all about hope, and nothing reminds me more of hope and Session 4 of Resting in Winter is all about hope. And when I think about hope and the nervous system, I automatically think of the ventral vagus nerve. And so in this session, we're going to be exploring self-massage as well as stimulating the ventral vagus nerve, which runs through our face, our ears, our jaws, neck, chest, and heart space. And so we're going to be exploring this area, and not just self-massage, but also stretches for the cervical spine, as well as a little bit of the thoracic area, so our upper back and chest heart space. So we will be in a seated shape for majority of this class, and I have my bolster underneath me, and then I have my blanket right below my knees. And also, it would be helpful for the self-massage portion if you have like oil or salve. I have some salve here that I like to use for inflammation or just joint pain or things like that. So you don't have to have anything fancy. Even if you just have like some olive oil, honestly, that's really all you need. So any type of oil, salve, whatever you have on hand, if you want to use it, because you could always forego it, go ahead and just grab some of that if you want it, and I'll meet you back here. And the trick with the blanket underneath my knees, if you haven't seen me do this before, is that I sit on my bolster, I place my ankles and my feet on the floor, and then I place the blanket right in front. So my ankles and my feet aren't actually on the blanket. And when I shift forward, it's just my shins and my knees that are resting on the blanket. And so this helps not only catch your hip flexors here and kind of prevent them from kind of hanging in space and being pulled, and they can get kind of tight that way. But it also helps your ankles and your blood flow. So set up however you want. This is how I'm going to set up. And if you'd like to have some blocks nearby, maybe one on either side, or just within reaching distance, that would be helpful for where we're going to be going in some of the next shapes. So I will meet you here, and whatever seated shape feels welcome to you. You could always drape a blanket over yourself. You could drape a blanket over your lap, allowing yourself to arrive in this moment. Taking a few breaths, maybe 5 rounds here, to just get settled and start to tune into your body, drawing all of your awareness inward in whatever way that feels right to you. If it feels welcome, you might even take a conscious breath in through your nose and maybe let it out as a sigh through your mouth. One more breath, however you'd like to take it. Bringing some attention to your spine. You might notice, without moving, just what kind of shape are you making with your spine? Perhaps tracing the outline of your spine with your mind's eye. maybe starting at the bottom and working your way up. And then allowing your body to adjust as you see fit. That might be by floating the spine up just a little bit, maybe creating a little bit more space. It might be that you notice if your body weight is shifting forward or shifting back, and maybe you explore stacking your spine, center one vertebrae over the others. And to start, I invite you to take the oil or salve or nothing at all, whatever you'd like to work with, and taking a little bit in your hands. And we'll start with our self-massage, just intuitively. So coming here to your neck, your shoulders, beginning to explore your muscles in your neck, shoulders, throat, even the front of your chest, so like your pectoral muscles, maybe around your collarbones or anywhere that you feel drawn to, that your body would appreciate. A little bit of TLC. And we'll spend about 4 to 5 more breaths here, just softening into our own touch. There's no agenda. You can just follow the promptings of your body here, tuning in. There's also this kind of soft spot, like a trigger point, right underneath your collarbones, and it helps metabolize emotions. And so if you are perhaps just wanting to explore that area, you could also kind of massage just right underneath your collarbones. And we'll take another 1 or 2 breaths here. All right. And if you'd like to join me for a guided self-massage now, because if you are still taking those intuitive movements and that's what is working for you, please feel free to stay with that if you want. And if you'd like to join me, feel free to follow along. Bringing our hands to the back of our necks and beginning to massage up and down with your fingertips on either side of your spine. If it helps to even lower your chin toward your chest, that might be something that you do, or if you prefer to keep it neutral, option to do so. And we'll be here for the next 4 or 5 rounds of breath. If it feels welcome to even work your fingers up into the base of your skull, kind of at your hairline, that is also an option. And then releasing your arms, releasing your hands for a moment, taking a little break, and just pausing here to feel. And then we'll move on to one side of the neck, and I'm going to start with my right hand You can start with either side that you want, but just for the sake of clarity and directions, I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to allow my right ear to drop toward my right shoulder as I take my right hand to now this open side of my neck. And starting behind my ear with a flat hand and kind of behind the jaw as well, I'm just going to move down my neck and into the top of my shoulder. So this is your trapezius muscle. And moving down. You set the pace here. You set the pressure. This can be a feather light touch or it can be a grounding touch. What does your body need today? What does your nervous system need? And there's no right or wrong way to do this. There's no pass or fail grade here. It's whatever your body is asking for, just do that. And we'll be here for another 3 or 4 rounds of breath, just taking your time. And if you'd like to explore reversing the direction, so instead of going top down, maybe going bottom up, you could also explore that. Two more breaths. Beginning to find completion on this side of your neck if you are ready to be done. You might slowly release your hand and bring your neck back to center. And let's take a pause for a breath or two. And just feel whatever's present on the left side of your neck compared to the right. And then switching sides, if you're ready, you could allow your left ear, or whichever ear you haven't done yet, to drop toward your shoulder, taking your opposite hand and beginning to work this side of your neck. Noticing that this side of your body might have very different needs or sensations than your other side, and so how can you approach this side of your body? How does it want to be approached? Noticing if you need to change up the pressure or the movement. Anything goes here. You know your body best. And you can do what you need to do to honor your needs here. We'll take another 3 rounds of breath or so. One more breath in and out. Releasing and coming back to center whenever you feel complete. Pausing for one more breath. And now we will move into our jaw, and there's a couple different ways you could do this. I'll show 2 on 1 to start, so that means doing both sides at the same time. You could take your fingers, whichever ones you want to work with, and I like to use my first 2 fingers or my 2 middle fingers, and pressing behind the ear and moving down the crease of your jaw. And you could hook underneath and continue working your way down your jaw, or you could go to a point where you feel your jaw start to curve and go down the neck instead. So 2 choices, or whatever you intuitively feel is correct for you. So you could do 2 hands, both sides of your jaw at once, or you could do 1 at a time, whatever feels right. And of course, if you need to reapply oil or salve, feel free to do so. And we'll spend about 5 breaths here, in and out. It's so often that we clench our jaws. Not everybody, of course, but a lot of people, myself very much included, I clench my jaw a lot when I am stressed, or it's just a muscle pattern that I've kind of developed over the years as I've healed from trauma. And so for whatever reason you may or may not be a jaw clencher, this is a great self-massage, a myofascial release to ease some of that tension out of your jaw. About 2 more breaths. All right, starting to find completion here. Resting the hands for a moment, resting our shoulders, our muscles, and just kind of soaking up the effects. Noticing how your body is responding. Okay, we'll move to now the front of our neck, and oftentimes, not always, but often, when we are trying to protect ourselves, we curl inward. And so our shoulders curl inward, our neck kind of comes forward and down, and all of this can become quite tight. And so coming to the front of our neck, and again, reapplying salve or oil if you need it. And I'd like to take this one side at a time, but you don't have to. I'm going to take my right hand and start on the left side of my neck. And here, I like to start below my jaw and work my way down. Now, this can be a very sensitive area, so you might start with like a lighter touch and then see what your body is open to. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can, so my throat is here, here's my center. I'm on the left side of that. I could go straight down, or you can kind of go diagonal at an angle, maybe even turning your face away from it. Kind of noticing how you can add some movement into this to soften your muscles into it and kind of help your hand out with some of the work. So about 5 more breaths here. You could even lift your chin up instead of to the side and notice if that feels different, if you prefer it or not. You might allow your hand or fingers to go all the way down to your collarbone. It doesn't have to go over if you don't want to, but it could. As we take our last 1 or 2 breaths here. Starting to find completion. Finishing up if you're ready to, because if you're not, if this is really serving you, you can continue doing whatever it is that you're doing. And then we'll kind of pause in the middle. And then whenever you're ready to do the next side, you could find your way. Maybe if you're on the same side as me, it would be your left hand to the right side of your neck. And again, this is a pretty sensitive area, and it's a very kind of vulnerable area. So if you notice that your body is tensing or tightening, perhaps lighten your touch, even if your fingers are just barely touching your neck, your throat. Even if you are just super lightly going over this area. Another 3 breaths or so. Last one. And when you feel complete, you could come back to center. No rush. One more breath here. All right. We will do a ear massage slash, it's a pressure point also, and it's very stimulating to the ventral vagus nerve. So the ventral vagus nerve is the part of our nervous system that it gives us feelings of connection with ourselves, connection with others, feelings of safety and being able to regulate with others. And so that's why we're focusing so much on this. It gives us also that sense of hope and well-being. And so we could start on one ear. You might just take the same side hand, maybe working from the top of your outer ear, pressing and kind of massaging down. Or you could even take two hands on one and kind of like, not quite pinch, but you know, grab a hold of your earlobe, your cartilage, and apply some pressure and maybe pull and work it outward. And again, you control the pressure, you control how deep or light you go. You can listen to your body here. It knows exactly what it wants, and so all you need to do is just tune in and listen. We'll take one more breath here. All right, switching sides. Again, one hand or both. Two more breaths. starting to finish up this side if you're ready to. And I'll meet you back at center whenever you get here. Just taking a second to pause. What do you feel? All right. Now that we have spent some time releasing these muscles and offering ourselves this tender and caring touch, now I'd like to go into some specific stretches for all of these areas. So you might start by bringing your awareness back into your spine, noticing what kind of shape is my spine making, where is my weight going, and if you're curious, you might allow your spine to float up, creating some spaciousness, and then allowing your neck to rest over your tailbone. So coming into an alignment that feels natural to you, adjusting these cues as needed. And then from here, option 2, take a conscious breath in. And then as you exhale, you might allow your chin to drop down towards your chest. So while the rest of your spine stays nice and spacious, the movement comes from your neck. As your head comes forward, maybe you allow it to grow a little bit heavier. You might choose to stay right here at center. Maybe you can feel the back of your neck opening or some other sensation. Or if you'd like a little bit of movement, you could create some half circles, just rocking your head from left to right, finding a pace and a range of motion that feels appropriate for where your body is today. And we'll take another 3 rounds of breath here. Last one. Maybe your movements become a little bit smaller. Slowly drawing your chin back to the center of your chest and back into stillness if you feel complete. And with your next inhale, you might join me in lifting your head back up. Checking in with your legs just for a second. If you feel like they're starting to fall asleep or you need to stretch them out or change the cross of your legs, please do so. Finding what works for you here. And then we'll head on over to the side of our neck, and so back into this spacious spine, and taking your, doesn't matter which ear you take, but I'm going to start right on my right side. So taking your right ear and draping it over to the right so that your right ear heads on over toward your right shoulder or vice versa. And you might just stay here, or option to take your opposite hand and just reach it on over to the side, noticing how that might change the sensation in this open side of your neck and even down your arm. If you feel any pinching or tingling, it might be that your muscles are kind of tight and on a nerve, and so you could always forego the hand out. But whatever you decide, we'll be here for the next 3 or 4 rounds of breath. Noticing what kind of sensations are present on this side of your body. Last breath here. And if your arm is extended and you're ready to bring it back in, you could do so. And then drawing your head back up to center, taking a second here. And if you're ready to switch sides, you might drape your opposite ear to the same side shoulder. Just pausing here for a second and then noticing if you'd like to extend your opposite arm. And if so, how does that feel? Does it feel okay for your body today? And choosing what's right for you. Three more breaths. Last one. If your arm is extended, you might draw it back in. And then I'll meet you back at center, moving slowly and mindfully. One breath here. What do you feel? What's present for you? And we'll now shift on over to the front of our neck, and right hand can come to this left side of your neck, and finding your collarbone will be not necessarily on the collarbone, but right above it. And if it feels okay, you might apply just some gentle pressure here. It doesn't have to be too deep, just a little bit of pressure. And then taking your gaze and turning away from your hand, keeping this gentle pressure just on the muscles right above your collarbone. You could take a breath in, and then as you exhale, you might begin to draw your chin and your ear up towards the ceiling. And it might not be like straight up towards the ceiling, like my chin is kind of just still facing out to the side, but you'll feel where it's right for your body. And if you want, you could find stillness, or you could continue kind of moving your head a little bit from left to right, keeping this gentle pressure over the muscles on the opposite side of your neck. Or if this doesn't feel like it's serving you, having your hand here, you could always release it and enter into this stretch without this, it's called a pin and stretch. So without pinning your muscle, you could still do this stretch. And we'll take another 1 or 2 breaths here. If you feel satisfied here, like you're ready to be done, you could bring your head so that it's just looking away from your hand, kind of back to center, and then turning your gaze back forward, and then releasing your hand. And if it feels welcome, you might even roll through your shoulders here, or you might prefer stillness. You can decide. And then check in with the left side of your neck and the right side of your neck, and kind of tune into what's present on either side. And then we'll switch directions. So now taking your opposite hand, whichever one you didn't do last time, over, so it's my left hand over to my right collarbone, and finding your collarbone. If you want this pin and stretch kind of movement, then you might apply some gentle pressure to the muscles above your collarbone or just right above it. And then turning your gaze away from your hand. If you're ready, you could start to reach your top ear kind of up towards the ceiling, finding this spot that works for you. Maybe you continue movement, maybe you find stillness. Might even kind of take a second to find where you want to be, so you could kind of explore this range of motion here. And then we'll take about 3 more breaths here. And another breath. Starting to find completion. If you're ready to leave this shape, and if you're not, please feel free to stay longer. You could start to draw your head so that it's back, it's looking at the side again, and then back to center, and then releasing your hand. Stillness, or maybe you just take some intuitive movements through your shoulders, your neck. Anything goes here. And to finish out some of these seated shapes, we'll just move a little bit through our side body and a little bit through our chest and heart space. So these blocks at your sides, if you have them, you don't need 2, you really only need 1 at a time. So if you just have 1, that's totally fine. You can just place it on one side. And depending on the height of your bolster, my bolster is quite thick, so I have my block at the medium height, but you could always place it at the highest or the shortest. Just placing it to the side. I'm going to start on my right side, and option to return to this spacious spine, finding lots of length, as much as feels right for your body. And with your next inhale, you might start to reach your arms up overhead. And then as you exhale, option to place one hand on your block and then lean over with your top arm, opening up the side of your ribs. Option to find stillness here, or you might bend your top elbow back toward the ribs and then reach it back over. 2 more breaths here. Last one. With your inhale, you might find your way back to center, reaching both arms up. And then with an exhale, option to find it on the other side. And again, stillness or movement, perhaps peeling your top elbow back and then reaching it back over for 2 more breaths. Last one. I'll meet you back at center whenever you get there. And option to relax your arms down. Maybe rolling through your shoulders if it feels welcome. And for our last seated shape, I invite you to take it's not quite cactus arms, it's a little bit different. I don't really have a name for this pose, but in cat-cow, when we are really drawing our whole spine forward, it's kind of similar to that, except for this time, you could draw your whole spine forward, and that is an option. And another option is to focus only on the very top of your spine, only on your heart, as if you are only drawing your heart forward. So if you'd like to join me, you could bring your hands out to the side, kind of like you're holding two plates in either hand with palms face up. And bringing some mobility to your shoulders for just a second, you might roll them back. An option to kind of slide your shoulder blades down your back and then kind of take a pause here. Noticing how that feels. Finding center in your spine, or if you'd like to take the path of least resistance, you might just allow your spine to start coming forward. So those are two options here. Option one, inhale and allow your whole spine to come forward. Option number two is to draw your heart space forward, and you might even peel your elbows back a little bit. Notice the difference. You might even try both and see which one you like better. As we draw the heart space forward only as much as you want to, maybe even drawing your elbows back, kind of like your shoulder blades are kissing back behind you. And we'll take one more full breath here. Staying for the exhale. And then release if you're ready to. Doesn't look like much, but it feels very big, at least in my body it does. So, starting to shift into our time of rest, I'd like to invite you into a supported Shavasana, and then I'd like to take a humming breath, if you'd like to join me, as we ease into our time of rest. So setting up for this supported Shavasana, you might have your bolster, some blankets, and I'm gonna set up on my back. However, you can take this time of rest however you want. And I'll show you how I'm gonna set up here. I'm gonna have my bolster underneath my knees, and then I'm gonna have another blanket nearby to drape over me. So choosing if you'd like to lay on your back, on your stomach, on your side. You could also go legs up the wall. Honestly, the choice is yours. It's whatever you want to do. And starting to settle in, giving your body a second to adjust. If you come onto your back and your lower back feels a little bit like short or kind of jammed up, it might be helpful to pull your knees in toward your chest. Kind of rock from side to side for a second. Maybe you drape a blanket over yourself. And then once you feel settled, maybe you take a deep breath in and out. This humming breath is often very soothing, depending on the person, but usually it's found to be very soothing. And the humming actually stimulates and vibrates our ventral vagus nerve. So it's very simple. It literally is as it sounds. You're just going to hum on your exhale. But this hum doesn't have to sound pretty. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be forceful. Humming in a way that feels natural, gentle, intuitive is the best way to approach this. So, if you'd like to join me, you might take a conscious breath in and out, just whatever feels easeful to you. And then we'll start on our next exhale. So you could breathe in. Continuing at your own pace. Allowing your hums to just exhale out. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. We'll take another 8 to 10 rounds of breath here. Last 1 or 2 breaths. After your last humming breath, option to release it and allow your breathing to return to its natural pace. Shifting into a time of rest, we'll be here for the next 4 or 5 minutes. There's nothing left for you to do here. There's nothing to accomplish. You can rest here in any way you want to. And just know that for these next 4 or 5 minutes, I'll be quiet and I'm still here with you. I'll keep track of the time and I'll let you know when it's complete. And just know that if you want to move or have your eyes open during this time of rest, you absolutely can. There's no rules here. There's no rush to leave this time of rest if you are still receiving. And if and when you do decide you are ready to ease out of it, I invite you to add any movement back into your body as you see fit. If you're lying on your back or your stomach, or if you have your legs up the wall, you might begin to roll on over to one side, pausing in a side-lying shape for just a moment. And then when you're ready, press yourself up. I'll meet you there. Coming into any seated shape when you're ready. And if you'd like to join me by placing one hand over your heart, one over your stomach, I welcome you to take one collective breath with me, starting with an exhale. And then we'll breathe in together. Thank you for joining me in this session today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And it is my hope that you feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. Thank you.